Welcome to our demo of SDIComplete. SDIComplete is a simple yet powerful utility billing system designed for small to medium-sized communities. SDIComplete does one thing well: generate invoices for your utility customers. These invoices can include metered services, flat rate services, or any combination of each. SDIComplete interfaces with multiple community management packages such as TOPS, AppFolio, and Rent Manager. In addition, SDIComplete interfaces directly with the popular QuickBooks Pro. As a result, SDIComplete does not offer the functionality to manage payments, statements, or financial reporting. SDIComplete interfaces with systems that provide these services to our customers. This demo will show how SDIComplete interfaces with QuickBooks Pro. In this demo, we will use QuickBooks Pro 2017. However, SDIComplete works with versions 2011 up to 2018 Pro to Premier. To begin our demo, we will start in QuickBooks. To begin, we must set up customers and services in QuickBooks. Once customers and services are set up in QuickBooks, they are pulled or synced into SDIComplete. Now that we're in QuickBooks, let's get started. If I click the Home button in the left navigation, the Home shortcut, it opens up my menu that will allow me to take a look at my customers. Here I can create new customers, I can edit customers. For details specifically on how to work with QuickBooks, I strongly encourage you to get a QuickBooks book, and there are many tutorials and training sessions online that you can use as well. But SDIComplete will need customers in QuickBooks in order to be able to pull those customers in to create invoices for them. Another bit of information that we will need in SDIComplete are the services. They are also on this main home screen up under the company, the items and services. And you'll see that I've already created 3 services: garbage, metered water, and sewer. These are not the only types of services that can be set up. You can have multiple types. You can have multiple garbage, for example. You can have a service for a customer that has 1 can, and a service for a customer that may have multiple cans, or another service for a customer that may be an apartment complex that gets a large dumpster, for example. Metered water is typically just that. It is water consumption that is measured by the usage, and they're billed accordingly based on the usage. Sewer can be a flat rate sewer, or it can be billed based on the consumption of the water. And I'll show you how all that works here in just a moment. Now we're going to pull these customers from QuickBooks into SDIComplete so that we can generate invoices for them. This is simply done by clicking Sync in the top navigation, clicking Sync Customers, and if you'll note, there are the 2 customers we created. We have a check mark beside each of them. We're going to go ahead and sync and pull them in. Also, we're going to sync services. We have a check mark beside each service, so we're going to go ahead and make sure we sync all 3 of those in as well. We've pulled those in. Now we have a little bit of configuration to do before we can actually assign those services to customers. That configuration includes what type of service is it. Is it a flat rate service, or is it a metered service? So our first service listed here on the service screen, which I got to by clicking Data, Manage Service Rates, our first service is garbage. This is not a metered service, so we will leave the checkbox unchecked. It will need a rate. It's a flat rate, so anyone that has this service assigned to it will be billed whatever this flat rate amount is each billing period. That billing period can be quarterly, monthly, semi-annually, whatever you choose. In our example here, I'm going to put $14.25 for garbage. I'm going to leave this invoice checkbox included so that it will be included on the invoice. And I'll click Save. Our next service is metered water. This is a metered service. And so for a metered service, what you must have is a tiered billing structure. or it gives you the option for a tiered billing structure. A tiered billing structure means that you could charge one price per gallon up to 1,000 gallons, for example, and a different price per gallon from 1,001 up to 5,000, for example. So this screen allows you to set that up. Let me show you how you would add a rate. Now, you have to have a starting minimum value, and this is dependent. There are various ways that it can be set up, but I'm going to give you the most common method that I see. Most municipalities charge a flat rate just for having the water turned on. For example, they may have, if they have a usage of 0, a customer would still get charged $10, even if just because they have the water turned on. This type of charge is a fixed charge, and it will be added to any other successive charge. So I set those up, click OK. So we're good there. Now I want to add a new rate. Now let's say for this rate, it's not a fixed charge. It's a cumulative charge, so that it will be it will be calculated on a per gallon basis. So let's say anyone that has a usage of 100 gallons and above, the minimum value of 100 gallons or above is charged 0.00234 per gallon. I check this as cumulative. It's not fixed, because that a fixed would only would only include this addition to the charge. It would not multiply that per gallon. Cumulative multiplies it per gallon. I click OK, and we're set up. So now you see how we have this rate set up. These other buttons are self-explanatory. I can edit this rate, the selected rate, if I choose. Click Edit Selected, and I can make that 12. Click OK there. I can remove this rate here if I choose to, and then I can add it back. And we'll do this at 1,000 this time instead. And again, make it cumulative. Our final service is sewer. Now, sewer is one of those that can be set up as a flat rate service, or it can be set up as a surrogate service. A surrogate service is a metered service. Let me briefly describe to you what a surrogate service is. It is a service. Sewer is calculated based on the consumption of the water. So the water coming into the house, that consumption amount that the customer uses during the billing period, is also used in the calculation for the sewer charge if it is a surrogate service. The billing amounts did not have to be the same amount for the water and the sewer, although they could be. It can be whatever your current process is. So I'll show you an example. If I set sewer up as a metered service, you'll note here that I have a checkbox that becomes visible that allows me to set this as a surrogate service, which says use this consumption from a different service. Use the consumption from a different service to calculate the charges. If I set this, I can enter rates for this regardless, but if I set this, then I have my own billing rates. However, when we create invoices, it will create a different invoice line item with the charge amounts that I configure here. Now, going back, I don't have to set this up as a metered service. Sewer can also be a flat rate. I'm going to choose to set it up as a metered service here in our example, so that you can see how we would configure a surrogate service. So metered, so sewer will be metered, and it'll be a surrogate. So I'm going to add the rate, and I will set this up only as a per gallon charge. So if they are set a minimum usage of 0, they are charged 0.00311 per gallon. I'm going to set it cumulative, and it's just going to calculate up. Alright, so we are set. I'm going to set our units of measure to gallons. This is already set to gallons. Okay, so now we have our services configured. So now we would need to add these services to customers. Now if you notice our two customers, Lou Ferrigno, on the details tab here you see his address information, which we pulled all of this information from QuickBooks. We have the services tab. There are no services assigned to Mr. Ferrigno. I click the plus sign. Now we have the ability, we have added garbage. If we want to add garbage, we're done. It's set. We can click save here, and Lou will be invoiced for garbage each time an invoice is created. If we want to add the other services, I click the add service button again. Notice we're 2 of 2. We can now come in and change our rate type to metered water. We can enter the address if we would like here, and this address will be the service location address. So I'm going to call this 654 where my meter is road, because that's what you want this service location to be. We do not have cities and states. I didn't configure those in this demo, but that's easily done, and I can show you how to add those later. The route number. Now we need to set up our meter here. That's what these tabs are. This is a metered water service again. So our route will be 01. This route can be any number you choose. It just needs to be meaningful to you. The sequence is the order in which a person would walk the neighborhood, typically if they're going to read meters via walking. It can also be the order in which a vehicle will drive, or someone using a wand will walk the neighborhood. It's not quite as beneficial for those collecting reads via a radio. However, it still can help. If someone is driving a specific direction, and they know the order that they're going, it gives them a path to follow as opposed to just driving anywhere. However, with today's radio meters and the line of sight, sometimes you can read meters all the way across town. So, sequence number. If you don't have a sequence number, you can click this next sequence number button, and it populates it for you. We don't want to start off with a 0, so we're going to set it as a 1. Then we'll go to our meter info tab, and we enter. This is the AMR ID, the meter ID. Now, if it's a radio meter, this is the ID on the side of the radio. This is the radio transmitted ID, the encoder ID. Your meter installer, your installation team, will know what these IDs should be, and they should provide them to you with on a spreadsheet or a form that tells you what meter ID, what meter was installed in what address or lot, for example. So in our example, I will give these a simple meter ID of 98712, and we populate both the AMR ID and the meter ID with the same values. Now our meter type, here we'll choose, I'm going to choose visual, because in my demo I'm going to set it up as a visual, and I'm going to create visual reads. I'm going to set our multiplier. You can change it to whatever you choose. You can divide, or you can multiply by, you're effectively dividing when you're multiplying by a decimal, of course, but you can select whatever you need depending on your meter type. Number of dials, the standard there is 8. If you think you need to change that, give us a call, and we'll describe that to you, and we'll help you understand how to get that set right. Initial read. This is very important the first time through. When you first put a meter in, we have no invoice history for that meter. So we need to have a starting point to be able to calculate usage. So if you have a meter in the ground and the meter is currently, the reading on the face right now, for example, let's say it's 1200, then we need to know that and have that stored here so that when you collect your first read and we calculate the usage, we're starting from the correct point. Okay? So now, obviously there's no history. and surrogate. So this is where we're going to set this up for the sewer that we were talking about earlier when we were configuring services. But it's not necessary here because we're working with metered water. If you can follow along with the mouse there. So I have everything set up. I'm going to hit save. So now we have our meter set up for Lou. So Lou has got garbage and Lou has metered water. We're going to add one more here. We're going to add sewer. Now note, we now have a third service, 3 of 3. The rate type, it defaults to the very first service in the list. We're going to use the drop down and select sewer. Now note the meter info field, how everything now is disabled. We were setting all these up just a moment ago for the metered water service. Even though this is a metered service, all these fields are visible, but they're not enabled. What you will do is, since this is a surrogate service, you have to select the meter ID that will be used to generate the consumption for this service. And this is the meter ID for the metered water that we just set up. So I'm going to select that, and I'll click Save. Now we'll go to our next customer. We will set up services for Lou Gehrig. Now, if you note, just like Lou Ferrigno started off, Mr. Gehrig has no services. Mr. Gehrig doesn't have garbage. He only has sewer. So we're going to, he only has water. So we are going to just add metered water. I click the yellow plus sign again. We're going to add metered water. His meter is at his billing address. The route we will add again to 01. And a little bit more about the route. The route is effectively a geographic location, if you want to think about it that way. If you want to group all of your homes, all of your meters into a geographic location, meaning you may go read everything in this one area on Monday and then go read a different area on Tuesday, that's a way you could use the route to filter each of those data sets. It makes a lot of sense when a person is walking the neighborhood, or if you have if your topography is very well spread out, very heavily spread out, like maybe you're up in the Dakotas, for example, and your homes are far apart. You may want to split up the routes that way. Now, we need a sequence number. We can hit the next sequence number, and it starts us off at 2. Or that's after we actually started at 1 with Mr. Ferrigno, if you recall. We have that set up correctly. Now we're going to hit the meter info, and we'll give him a completely different meter ID. And they have to be, the meter IDs have to be unique. You cannot have a customer with the same route and sequence number, and you cannot have a customer with the same meter ID. The meter IDs have to be unique because that's how you determine a customer's usage, obviously. Let me get this right. And again, this will be a visual. I'm going to leave the multiplier set to 1, number of dials. And this meter is going to start off at 145. Let's see, we have no history. And this is not a surrogate. So Mr. Gehrig is set up. Now we're prepared to begin read collection. In our left navigation in SDIComplete, we've set up a little guide for our users to follow the step-by-step process to collect their meter readings. We always want to have the most current list of customers in SDIComplete before we begin meter read collection. When I say the most current list, we want to make sure we have all the customers, the addresses, the service location being where the meter actually exists, along with the billing address. So when we click Sync Customers, just as you've seen before, SDIComplete immediately connects to QuickBooks. We already are aware of these two customers, so they're checked. When I say aware, SDIComplete knows about these customers, so we just click sync just to make sure we're up to date. Then we're going to export readings. And what we're doing is we're pushing down to the read device data that will allow the user in the field to know who to assign the readings to. In our example here, you'll notice we have a starting route and an ending route. We set up all of our meters with a route of 0, 1. It is possible for you to have multiple routes, and this is where you could utilize that. You could send multiple routes down to a read device and help the reader, the meter reader in the field technician, filter their data accordingly that way. For our example, we'll keep it simple and we'll just have one route. And we're going to include all sequence numbers from 0 to 9s. We're going to collect reads for the billing period 2017 November. Alright? And this is cycle 1. And we only have one cycle set up. A cycle is effectively a billing period, but you could think of a cycle as a sub-billing period, or it could actually contain multiple months, or it could be a cycle could also be a given week in a month. For example, the first week in a month. So it depends on how you configure your process. For most people, cycle 1 is all they need, because most municipalities or most communities bill monthly. Now that we have all the parameters selected, we just click Add Range, and then we're going to create the file. Now, for our demonstration purposes, we're going to use a Workabout Pro handheld to collect the meter readings. So when I click Create File here, it is going to push the data down to the handheld for the handheld to build the data, get it set up, and allow the meter reader to collect their readings. Now, I have a little tool on my window here that we can look at, and we can see that we already have our two users down on the handheld, but they've already had reads collected. If you notice, Lou Gehrig has a reading. This is the read field, so, as does Lou Ferrigno. Well, we want to start over fresh. We are setting up as we started over here in SDIComplete. This is the before reading phase, so we're setting up the meter reader to go out and collect readings. Okay, so in order to do that on our system and our software, we're going to close this application. And so now we have nothing running on the handheld. We're going to create file. And the file was pushed down to the handheld. So now I'm going to open up our formatting tool. Now we pushed it down to an SDIComplete directory, so I'm going to click Build Download. This is a screen just telling us that the reads were never uploaded off the prior push down to the handheld. I'm going to click and abandon these reads by clicking Yes, and that's perfectly fine in this demonstration example. I want to go ahead and build the download files. They're built. So I can click Close now, and we'll open SD Reader CE. And we will see that Lou Ferrigno and Lou Gehrig have no reads, and the handheld is refreshed for us to be able to go out and collect meter readings. So here we go. Lou Ferrigno is the first one on the list. 0 of our accounts have been read. We only have 2 accounts, and they are unread. That's what the U stands for. I'm not going to go into great detail with SD Reader CE. That's a different training demo. But I am going to go ahead and enter readings for both of our accounts here. So, for Lou Ferrigno, we will enter a reading of 1912, and I'll hit Enter or Save. And then for Lou Gehrig, it'll be 3652, And I will hit the save button here as well, and that's all we have, so the system lets us know we're at the end of list. Now we're ready to pull these reads back up into SDIComplete and generate invoices. Our first step, as you would find out if you used our software, would be to always close SDReader CE so that the files are unlocked. Then we'll follow the reverse procedure. We will take those files and format them appropriately so that SDIComplete can read them. In this case, we're building the upload file. Upload.dat is our chosen file name. And success. So we'll close this out. And our work with the handheld is complete. Now we are in the after read stage. So we're at a point where we're ready to import the readings from the handheld. And we're going to import them into November 2017, just like we were working in the export side. Click import. All reads have been imported successfully. And now we're going to create invoices. Two invoices created. Now, as I would recommend for anyone, once you create the invoices, review them before you push them into your accounting system. Make sure everything looks good. Make sure, for one, since this is our, for example, if it was your first time through setting up your service rates, you want to make sure you got the rates set up correctly so that you have the charges are calculating appropriately. You don't want to give someone a water bill for a dime or a water bill for $10,000. I don't think that would go over well either way. So here you see the invoice for Lou Ferrigno, $28.46. Lou was billed. He had a reading of 1912, if you recall. When we configured Lou, we configured him with an initial read of 1,200, so that calculated out the consumption. His sewer is $2.21, and the metered water is 12, garbage $14.25. This all aligns properly with what we had configured. If you recall, we gave metered water, and I'll go back and we'll review that, a flat rate. As soon as they had the water turned on, they were immediately charged $10 a month just for having the water turned on. But we did not provide sewer with that. Sewer was just a per gallon charge. Metered water was a per gallon charge once they went over 100 gallons, I believe. So let's go back and take a look and make sure that this makes sense. So in service rates, you note garbage is a flat rate, $14.25. Metered water, users are charged $12, and then once they go over $1,000 gallons, then they're charged 0.00232 per gallon. So in our example, going back to Lou Ferrigno, he did not reach this level, so he wasn't charged anything for water. This is probably going to give us a very interesting reading for Lou Gehrig as well. We'll go back and take a look. And then we'll come back to sewer. If you recall, also in sewer, now that you see here, we did not have a flat rate, so they are only billed on a per gallon basis just for having water turned on. Okay. So now we'll go back to manage invoices, load. Let's take a look at Lou Gehrig. His previous read was 145, current read 3652, so he did have consumption that put us in the per gallon range. So he was charged $12 for the first 1,000, and then from 1,001 forward, it was on a per gallon basis. So 2507 was calculated on our per gallon basis, and 1,000 was the flat $12. Now, let's say, for example, with Lou Ferrigno, we realize that this reading is wrong. We need to edit this reading. We don't want to go back out and read. We've set up our system to allow you to go into a metered invoice item, and if you need to change the read, you can. Here's the reading for Lou, and we can change that to 1950. Click Save. Notice it updates the metered water read and the sewer read, and recall, sewer, in the case of Lou, is set up as a surrogate in the case of Lou Ferrigno, was set up as a surrogate service. So the sewage used the same consumption amount that metered water used. So when we change the metered water reading, we also change the sewer reading, and notice that it calculates appropriately. Okay, so now we have everything set up. Things look good for us. We are going to sync these invoices into QuickBooks. Now, let's step over here and let's take a look at QuickBooks before we sync these into QuickBooks. So if we come back to our customers, Lou has a balance of $146.70. Lou Ferrigno has a balance of $146.70. Mr. Gehrig has a balance of 0. Okay. None of these invoices have come in from SDI. These are just test invoices for these guys set up early on. We're going to sync these invoices into QuickBooks from SDIComplete. Now, if you want to sync an invoice in, you select the checkbox. If you're not sure about an invoice yet, and you may want to do some more research before you push it into QuickBooks, you can leave it unchecked. So let's just sync Lou Ferrigno in for now. There we are. Now, Lou Ferrigno now has invoice SDI1 set up with an invoice amount of $28.58. If we double click on this invoice in QuickBooks, you'll note that it creates an invoice item for each line item that you saw in a service that you created in first in QuickBooks, then to SDIComplete. Also note in the meter reading description, it gives the customer the previous reading amount, the current read, the consumption calculated, and the date and time of the reading that it was collected. Same for the sewer. It used 750. And this is the meter ID, if you recall, from meter 98712. That way the customer knows what meter is being used to calculate their sewage charges. Now, let's close out of this invoice. And let's come back up into SDIComplete. Note now when I click Sync Invoices, Lou Ferrigno is not listed. It's because his invoice had been synced in to QuickBooks already. So in this Sync Invoices screen, we only review the invoices that have not been pushed into QuickBooks. Now, let's say, for example, that we notice a problem with Lou Ferrigno's invoice. So we go back into our Manage Invoices screen. We click Load Invoices. Lou Ferrigno is right here. Here's his invoice. I place a checkbox in his invoice, and let's say I want to recreate it. Let's take this a little bit better. Let's say I've noticed a billing issue, a charge issue. I didn't calculate the dollar amounts correctly for the usage. Let's say I want to delete both Lou Ferrigno and Lou Gehrig's invoices. I select both, and then I hit Delete Selected. Now, if you recall, one of these invoices was pushed to QuickBooks. The other one has not. I get the standard message, are you sure you want to delete? Yes. This message here is valuable. One of the invoices has been pushed to an external system, in this case, QuickBooks. It's asking us if we want to delete the invoice from QuickBooks as well as SDIComplete. I encourage you to do so. In this case, that way they stay up to date, they stay in sync. Because if you're going to change something with this invoice for this current period, I would think in 90% of the cases you would also want to remove that invoice from QuickBooks, recalculate, and then push it back in. I'm going to say yes. Before I do that, I'm going to open up QuickBooks, and you can see the invoice sitting here that we were just discussing. It's the $28.58. I'm going to say yes to delete. Connects to QuickBooks, and note it deleted that invoice. Now neither invoice is there for the month of November for either of our customers. Now we're going to import readings and create again. So I click import. They're successful, but in continuing with our example, let's go in and modify our service rates a little bit. For our sewer, we want to, we're going to adjust this so it's a little bit, it makes a little bit more sense. We're going to set the sewer similar to the water with a flat rate of 15 if they have it turned on. And then we are going to have a per gallon charge once they reach 500 gallons of 0.0041. There we go. It looks a little more realistic. We'll leave metered water like it is. So for Rigno, it should be $12, just like it was before. Alright, so we're good there. Now, one other thing. Let's just, as things happen sometimes, we realized that we only assigned metered water to Lou Gehrig. Now, we did that intentionally the first time through. Let's go ahead and add those services in to Lou Gehrig that he may need. So, Lou Gehrig needs garbage. And now we're going to add metered water. Excuse me. We're going to add sewer to Lou. Okay? So, remember, sewer is a surrogate service. So, it uses the water consumption from the metered water service. So, we'll go to the surrogate tab here. And in the drop down, we'll select the meter ID that is assigned to Lou Gehrig. Note it's 43267. That was our only option for the meter ID. I'm going to click Save. We're going to go back up to metered water, and if you look, 43267 is our meter ID for Lou Gehrig. Okay, now we've got everything set up correctly. So what we did was we set up to collect readings. We realized we had a few things that were kind of wrong in our invoices once we calculated them, and we actually realized it after we pushed one of the invoices into QuickBooks. So what I just showed you is how you could back those invoices out of QuickBooks and SDIComplete, correct your service assignment and your dollar, your charges that are used to calculate your invoice amounts, and now we're going to recalculate. So we've imported readings, and we'll do it once more. Those are pulled in. We're going to create invoices, and this invoice date text field here is to allow you to set the invoice date based on your usage and your process. 2 invoices created. So let's go look at our manage invoices now. Note the dollar amounts are much different. They're higher, and they're higher because there's a flat rate now for the sewer. So let's take a look. Let's double click on Lou. Lou also has garbage, which he did not have before, and now he has a sewer charge, which he didn't have before either. And that looks realistic. That looks good. Mr. Ferrigno has the same consumption amount for both. The only difference was that he has a higher sewer charge now because he has a flat rate amount. Now, recall we removed these invoices from QuickBooks. So when I click Sync Invoices now, because both of these invoices have not been synced into QuickBooks, they will be available to us to sync into QuickBooks as they are. And so I'm going to click the Select All button, and then I'm going to click Sync. Two invoices synced. And let's take a look at QuickBooks and see how things look. There we have for Lou Ferrigno a new invoice with a different invoice number. Recall his first invoice was SDI 1. This is SDI 3. And now for Lou Gehrig, you see he has an invoice ID of SDI 4. And there is his balance amount of $59.40. And so what we have tried to achieve here in our demo is to give you a high-level view of how data flows from the source system of QuickBooks into SDIComplete, and how SDIComplete then helps you gather your readings. Well, first prepare your meter reader to gather the meter readings, collect those meter readings, and generate the invoices, but then also show you the flexibility within SDIComplete so that as you have issues, or maybe you encounter configuration or pricing issues, SDIComplete allows you to quickly go back in, modify those values, add services if you chose to, and then recreate the invoices. SDIComplete is a very flexible and powerful tool that ties itself to the flexibility and power of a very well-known application like QuickBooks. So if you have any questions about our product, please, or any product, please feel free to give us a call at 888-443-2888. That is our toll-free number, and we'd be more than happy to help you and answer any questions that you may have. Thank you.